Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sunday Messages. Today, I am going to be talking with you about a topic that has been very alive for me lately. And so my goal for the episode today is to really get you to see what I see so you can set yourself up for success moving into 2022. And I'm sure you're like, Sydney, it's September, can you chill out a little bit? But I need to give you this information before we start rolling into holiday season. And I'm going to explain why in this episode. But before we get started, I do want to let you know about a new masterclass. It's free that I have coming up on Tuesday, the 21st at 3 p.m. Pacific time. It is called God's Looking Glass. And I really want you to go into this masterclass blind. I don't want you to know all of the nitty-gritty details about it. So let's just say, if you like listening to me talk, if you appreciate my perspectives, if you would like to spend some time with me, and you're feeling as though you would like to have a new perspective or a new lens to view life through, that's really what we're going to be diving into on Tuesday. So I'm not going to give you too much, but just check in with yourself if you're feeling, yes, I don't even know what it is, but I just want to be there. Then you are more than welcome to sign up to be there with me live. So the description box or the show notes will have the link for you to get there. It's going to be onyxhealing.com/godslookingglass. It's just going to be very basic. You can sign up to get on the newsletter, so I'll notify you, and you can get the Zoom link to come hang out with me when we dive in on Tuesday. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to watch the replay, but if you like being in my live energy, this is the next way to do it. And if you're listening to this podcast way later, then this is probably going to be available for purchase on my website, so keep your eyes peeled for that as well. The second thing that I want to mention before we dive into this episode is that Apex starts on October 1st. It is sharp. There is a very strict cutoff deadline for that because it's a container that starts on October 1st and then we end on November 30th. This is a 2-month intensive with me. And the way that I've designed this mastermind, because there's 10 spaces available, is to really make it a mental and emotional and spiritual athletic style training. So this is really speaking to, and it's for those people who are good, but they want more. And they know that their capacity to do greater things and to achieve greater refinement and focus, they desire that, but in terms of creating a whole container and adding that structure that feels really good and feels liberating and is in agreement with your body is something that people can get really lost in. So I'm cutting out all of the guesswork. I'm sure you've experienced this in the past where you really want something or you're like, ooh, I know that I'm gonna go really in depth with money manifestation, or you might want to do something really specific, but then you don't create a solid container for success, and then you start floundering, or old habits of the past start to sweep you away and it kind of gets lost in there, or you're using time as an excuse. So we are cutting out all of that. We're eliminating all possibility of that in Apex. The other unique thing about Apex is that I'm doing everything with you. So all of the structures that I've created for this container, I'm not saying, okay, go do it by yourself. No. I'm doing it alongside you. So I'm touching base with you every day. I'm also showing up in the container for the full 2 months with you. And then on top of that, instead of a bi-weekly call, which is typically how my other mastermind works, is we're touching base all the time, but we have a call every other week. With this mastermind, we're setting up our week together in the beginning. So you're getting set up for success. You have your specific practices and all of the things that you need. We're getting ready together each week. So if you're feeling like you desire a big fat reset button, or if you've been a little bit plateaued, or if you've been desiring more of that structure to help you extract more of your maximum performance, your peak performance, actually getting that from yourself, then this is for you. I would absolutely check it out. I would apply. Again, we start October 1st. And one more detail about this that I really want to remind you is that this is not something that I'm going to be running all the time. So if you're pushing it off or saying, oh, the next round, I don't have any clue when the next round would be, because this type of work is not something that's going to be sustained or regular. My other mastermind, Eden, you can be in that for years if you want to, and grow with it and evolve with it. Apex is an intensive, so it's not something that I would sustain forever in terms of the level of intensity that we're going into. So if you desire to absolutely crush 2022, this is what I would suggest for you. Hands down, I've never seen anything else like this online or on Earth, at least to my knowledge, and I'm very, very proud of this and excited for everyone who's going to be inside. So if you'd like to check that out, go to onyxhealing.com/apex if you desire that, and it will also be in the show notes and description box. Okay, now let's dive into 2022 preparation. Now, of course, we can apply these principles to every other year, but because we are in September of 2021 at the time of my recording this podcast episode, I really want to speak to, as we're heading into 2022 and all of the things that I see people do as they head into quarter 4. When I'm saying quarter 4, I'm not just speaking to business owners, even though I think a lot of people conflate looking at life in quarters as being related to finances or business, and I want to speak more generally. So one of the things that I feel very, very strongly about and that I work on with clients is optimization. I choose this word really intentionally because optimization is a frequency that is above need. My personal opinion is that focusing on need and just using that as your baseline or that as what you're aiming for all the time is a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. That's going to be a really, really shaky place to stay if you're just focusing on, okay, I'm getting my needs met and that's it. That means that you're constantly going to be in a cycle of feeling desperation because your needs aren't met, and then bouncing up to your needs are met, and then you sink below, and then you bounce back up, and then you sink below, and then you bounce back up. And that sucks. That sucks. I don't play in that realm. That sounds more like a nightmare than a daydream, in my opinion. So the area that I like to play with all of the people who work with me is optimization. Optimization is a very general word and it has infinite depth. So when it comes to optimization, like of your health, there's no limit. There's no limit. No matter how sick you are, no matter how well you are, there's more optimization to experience. When it comes to finances or your financial well-being, there's infinite optimization for your money, for your sense of abundance and having more than enough and being overflowing when it comes to money. It never ends. It's infinite. The same goes for love, health in relationships, emotional health. There's no limit. Optimization will never cap out. And the thing that I feel most passionately about in all of the work that I do is that there will never be a cap. My work is never done. My work is never complete, which is why this work is so much fun for me, because I can go as deep as people are willing to go. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that as we're heading into a new year, I'm sure you've seen like one of those wheels of life or whatever they're called, and it looks like a pie chart. And then you start evaluating all of the different areas of your life. And the cool thing about this is that it really gives you an idea of all of the different areas that you have the potential to optimize. And that is my shit. That is my jam. That is my thing. That is what I love. That is my number one thing that I love doing with people more than anything else, is how can we maximize all of these areas? Because it's impossible that you're going to be a level 10, which we could say that's like the highest level of satisfaction. It's going to be very difficult to have 10s all of the time, because what can be optimized is infinite. So you're going to be able to see all of these areas where you can extract more from your life all the time, every year, every quarter, every time you're starting to evaluate where you're going. There's going to be more optimization to be experienced. And this excites me so much. So much. I can't even put words to the feeling that I get when I start talking about optimization with people, because this is the funnest place to play, in my opinion. So generally speaking, you see two periods during the year when people start looking at this and really focusing on, I don't know, let me check in with my goals. And I would say those two times during the year generally, right? This isn't everybody, but just from what I observe, is obviously the new year. So January 1st or somewhere within those 2 weeks or within that first month or something in that range. And the second area is the mid-year point. So mid to late June, early-ish July is when people often come back to check in with their goals, unless you are absolutely on top of your goals all the time. But I find that to be pretty exhausting as well, especially as your vision might be changing. For the sake of this conversation, I'm going to focus on the January 1st goal setting or intention setting, or, evaluating your life, however you like to do it or however you observe other people do it. And generally it goes something like this. You set a goal or intention. You might go in with a loose plan. Again, it's going to be a whole range, but there's a loose plan or a loose intention or a loose goal. And then January 1st rolls around. You put a ton of pressure on yourself. And then let's say by the time February rolls around, you've either slacked off or forgotten about it completely or abandoned it, so on and so forth. There's a reason why people talk about these statistics when it comes to why New Year's resolutions don't work for the vast majority of people. Of course, I don't speak in absolutes, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that love it and crush it and have a lot of success with it. But widely, they are abandoned. It's a bunch of potential that you didn't fulfill. It's desires that you didn't experience. It's goals that you didn't reach. And it can breed a lot of resentment or a sense of failure or all of these other negative emotions that go along with it. Rightfully so. That makes sense. If you say you're going to do something on January 1st and you're going to stick to it all year and you can't even make it to February, yeah, that's going to be really disappointing. It's like you're disappointing yourself, you're abandoning yourself, and it sucks. It's a crappy feeling. I don't blame people for having a really hard time with New Year's resolutions. However, I have a theory about this. So the holiday season, that November, December time of year, people typically fall into one of two categories during this time. So the first category is you are stuffed to the gills with activities and obligations and places to be and people to see and things to do and shopping to do, and it's a very full time of year for you. Not necessarily good or bad, just a full experience during the last 2 months of the year. And the problem that can come from this in terms of how you step into the upcoming year is that you haven't actually had time to prepare yourself, to focus on it, to integrate things that will set you up for success in whatever intentions you set for the following year. So because you've been so overwhelmed for months, by the time January 1st rolls around, it's a bit daunting and you might actually be exhausted on January 1st. That first couple weeks of January, I don't see very many people bright-eyed and bushy-tailed ready to tackle the year. That's typically not the mood and the vibe that I'm seeing from people. It's, I'm exhausted, family was here for weeks, I'm burnt out, I've spent all of this money on presents, I'm stressed. January is typically a time when people are exhausted and stressed. So the idea of adding goals or intentions or a sense of daily focus, something that you need to anchor into each and every day, that's a pretty tall order for anyone. So it's just a bad recipe if you fall into that camp. Now, the other camp that people fall into is that the holiday season is actually incredibly emotional, stressful, frustrating, and just brings up a lot. That is also incredibly exhausting. It's incredibly stressful. So if you've lost a loved one, or there could be some anniversaries that are amplified during the holiday season, if you're experiencing a lot of grief around either people who you don't have in your life or people who have been lost, or even potential relationships that just didn't turn out the way you wanted to, this is a really sensitive time on the planet collectively for many, many people. Personally, I don't know anyone who has a neutral experience around the holiday season, even if you're not into holidays. Even people who don't celebrate or put up a tree or participate in Thanksgiving, even they do not get away with having a neutral experience. There's still a lot of sensitivity that's kicked up at that time, no matter your position. This is the category that I would put myself in as well. My personal experience with holidays is not so much that it's griefy, but I do have a desire, somewhere in my Grinch-sized heart, somewhere in there, I do have a desire for really traditional, warm and fuzzy holiday season things, whatever that is. But the reality of my experience with the holidays is that I get asked a lot of questions. There's a lot of family nonsense going around. I, am put in situations where I'm seeing people that I would typically avoid or not want anything to do with. And there's a lot of abusers in my family that I just don't want to spend time with. So during the holiday season, it's not for a lack of wanting, but I have to feel into my limits around what I'm willing to subject myself to at this time of year. So my experience is that it's not exhausting because I'm burning my energy or around a whole bunch of people that I don't want to be around. No, even being presented with a question and having to say no repeatedly to different events and different things, that is also very taxing because for the entire rest of the year, I am left alone. And this is all by design. But of course, culturally, things change around the holiday season, and so there are numerous things that have to be navigated during this time of year. And no matter what type of position you're in, whether it be a wave of grief or having to deal with family or having a love-hate relationship with your family or really trying to stick to your boundaries for the first time ever, there are so many diverse experiences, and I would say the vast majority of them are more emotionally draining and taxing than any other time of year. Or, like I mentioned before, you just have a really, really full time of year. It's full of all sorts of parties and events and seeing people and hosting people and going places and doing things and shopping and blah, 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 blah. So let me bring this all the way back around to the concept of Q4 for everyone, no matter what it is that you have going on. You have a life and you have areas of your life that you would like to see improve sometime in the upcoming year. As we're winding down in 2021, you have to account for the allocated energy that goes towards this emotional stuff or this holiday stuff during the last 2 months of the year. And if you're not accounting for that, by the time January rolls around, you're going to get blindsided. When I'm saying blindsided, I'm talking about blindsided by the reality of where your energy is at relative to the previous 2 months. And there's a massive energetic shift that happens in January for everyone, because it is a collective reset button, but it's also kind of like whiplash, because you just went through this very, potentially draining, emotional, or busy season. And then what we've done is expected that, okay, January 1st is here. Now's your time to shine. Now's the time for you to have your shit together, and you're going to be getting into the fittest shape of your life, and you're going to be emotionally well, and you're going to drink more green juice, and blah, 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 blah. That is a pack of lies. Okay? This is something that we are tormenting ourselves with, and I'm not having it. My own process over the past few years has varied, based on what I've had going on in my life. But one of the things that has really helped me is that I start setting myself up for the upcoming year in Q4 of the previous year. Now, I'm not big on being overly strict with how I do this, but what I mean is I start tuning into the upcoming year starting in September, October, because I'm accounting for that energetic loss that is happening in November and December. I'm usually extra sleepy, extra tired. I'm way, way, way slower than during other times of the year. And that part I actually do enjoy, but I have to account for it. I can't hold myself to this unrealistic expectation of where my energy is going to be in January. So how I've navigated this is that I start a lot of things in Q4. I set myself up in Q4 really, really nicely. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really excited to run Apex in October, November. Because by the time January rolls around in 2022, you're going to be a beast. It's not going to be that energetic whiplash that you would normally experience because you spent 2 months priming yourself. And you're still getting to enjoy and relax in December and have habits that are already well established that will bleed over into 2022. So the place that I think people are getting lost is in the middle of the busiest time is when you start tuning into the next year, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Granted, I'm a big believer in starting things whenever you want. You don't necessarily need to start something at the new year, and if you don't, all is lost. I'm not into that. However, one thing that has really helped me if I do desire more in the upcoming year in a big way, because there were times when I was in a really deep healing period where I was like, New Year's resolutions completely off the table because my only focus is healing. And if that's my focus, I don't need to add additional stress and pressure to myself. And I was 100% okay with that. But now, living in the land of optimization, my strategy has been to stretch myself during Q4. If you want something and you're looking ahead at 2022, in this case, and you're like, ooh, I would really love this to happen in the next year. I'd really love to have this experience, or I'd really love to stretch myself here, or I really, really, really want to get my physical health, the way I'm taking care of my body. I want to take care of that and be really intentional with it in this upcoming year. Okay, so start in December. Start when it's hard. Start when you're in the midst of deep temptation with food and alcohol. Start then, because it is going to make January a piece of cake, let me tell you. So in 2018, I knew that I wanted to start going to the gym. I had to take time off of exercising intensely. I've told this story before briefly. Exercise was triggering my nervous system, and so I had to lay off of intense workouts. I was going from like HIIT workouts 5 days a week to having panic attacks if my heart rate got too high. So I really had to be careful with how much I was pushing myself physically until I got my nervous system regulated, and then I could ramp myself back up. And I knew that because I wasn't in the habit of doing it, that I needed to start getting the ball rolling. So instead of waiting for January, I got a gym membership in December. And I started making myself go every day in December. And the thing is, when I started with the gym, it didn't mean that I was going in and doing squats and bench pressing and lifting and running and no. I started very small. I just got into showing up for myself by taking myself to the gym, and even if I just sat in the sauna, that was a win. So I used that as a way to start getting into the routine, the feeling, and the habit in the middle of it being the most difficult time of year to start something. And then, unsurprisingly, what ended up happening is during the entirety of 2019, I was far more consistent going to the gym than I ever have in my entire life. And that is, for me, what really illuminated what I had done. And so then, of course, I started doing that during the other years with different things. I would start tuning into this as early as possible. And if I really wanted something, I would start it when it's busiest. Because if I can do it then, I can do it during the other times of the year. It's going to be way easier for me. And looking at it is going to be far less daunting than if you start it on the heels of the holiday season. The other thing with the holidays that people are not accounting for is your mental body. So there's going to be a lot of interactions and situations that are going to eat up this mental energy and thought time. So if you're watching this when this episode comes out, let's see, it's going to be what? By the time it's released, September 19th, it's going to come out. And on September 19th, unless you're in the middle of something really intense or extreme, you're going to have much, much, much more mental energy than you will on December 20th. And if there's one thing that I hope lands for you in this episode is that your emotional energy and your mental energy are very, very precious. And when we're heading into the holidays, it is a time that, at least right now, I would suggest reflecting on. Reflect on this for yourself. How much energy are you going to have during the holidays? If you really want something in 2022, are you going to have the mental and emotional bandwidth to create some type of structure or anchors or plans for you to make the best of it, or to start implementing different practices in order to make that a reality for yourself? Because even when it comes to energetic work, if you're focusing on alignment, attraction, using energetic tools, there is somewhat of a game plan that you want to put together for yourself in order to make it consistent. Because in order for energetics to work, you need to be consistently embodied and aligned with that version of yourself. If the consistency isn't there, the old habit is ultimately going to override this new experience that you desire to have. So you can absolutely sync up with your desires. You can get into alignment with them. You can do that in any second. But if you're just super oriented towards running on autopilot, then you do need to create some type of structure for yourself in order for you to consistently tap back into that desired energy and frequency. So at this point, I would say you have two options with how to handle this. You can give yourself full permission to wait until January 1st, but understand that there's going to be a lag time when it comes to implementation. So if it feels better for you to set the plan, start preparing in January, then just own that fully. Because it doesn't actually matter when you start, but what I would encourage you to do is to be reasonable with your human. Okay, that's the piece that people are forgetting about, is that you need to help your human integrate. Of course, your mind is going to have a perfect picture of how it wants things to go, and all of the judgments that it makes and all of the stories that it tells about you being good or bad for executing or not executing on this thing that you set out to do. And so the way to get around this is to actually look at your human and take the human into account as you start mapping these things out for yourself. As I said before, it is not reasonable at all for your mind to bully your human into thinking that you can go off the heels of the holiday season and January 1st you've got your shit together. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not reasonable for your human to just flip into that state immediately. So be honest about what your human needs. And the distinction that I would make is, like I said, you can take January as a preparation month. You can say, this is where I'm getting up. I really enjoy my holiday season. I love it. And January is when I start organizing things. I start working out a lot of the bugs in my behavior and in my habits. And I'm using January as preparation for the next 11 months of the year. That's a great strategy. That's a great way to ease into and give yourself time to fully calibrate to all of the things that you desire to have in your day-to-day life. Another way to do it is to really start organizing yourself at the beginning of quarter 4, so I would say like October-ish. Use October and that, like, let's say first half of November as a way to get clear, tune in, start practicing, start weaving in these things that you desire to hit the ground running in 2022, right? When January begins, that January 1st moment, you're going to hit the ground running because you've already been weaving these things in during the holiday season. And so that's going to give your human time to catch up to what you actually want to be doing with your day. Now, personally, that's how I like to do it because I like feeling the fresh, expansive, hit the ground running, balls to the wall feeling of January 1st. I like that sensation. So in order for me to capitalize on that to the best of my ability, I have to really own my quarter 4. So this is, I would say, it's just a matter of personal preference, but don't forget that you're dealing with a human. You have a human. The mind is not going to account for all of the calibration and practice that the human needs in order for it to be a well-oiled machine. That's why flip-flopping and doing a 180 doesn't work for people. And I would also add, for those of you who have a lot of things that you desire to do in the upcoming year, then I would advise that you start in quarter 4. Because each piece is going to require time for implementation, working out the bugs, and then full-blown integration into your life and daily experience. And so if you're looking at your satisfaction in life in general, and you have all of these different areas that you want to improve and optimize, then starting sooner is better, because that is actually going to allow you to integrate all of them. Whereas if there's just a singular core focus that you have for the year ahead, then that's something that can be done, or hammered out within the month of January. But if you've got a bunch of things that you want to do, if you really want to optimize your experience in 2022, if you really want to do any major overhaul, don't expect yourself to get it all done in a month. It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable. You are something that will continue to evolve over the course of your entire lifetime. So these insane time constraints that we put on ourselves are just more harmful than helpful. Now, here's the other piece that I consider to be really helpful. And you can do this in meditation, or you can just sit in quiet contemplation about it. There's no real right or wrong way to do it, but it's simply a question that I would prompt you with. Now, there is a future version of yourself, a future aspect, right? Because past, present, and future are connected, right? But we can only experience fully the now moment. But your future self is connected to you the same way your past self is connected to you on a quantum level. So it's reasonable to say that whatever you want in this upcoming year, there's a future version of yourself that already has it. And that future version of yourself, the more you tune into it, the more it can actually guide you and send you information about the right next move in the present moment. So in whatever it is that you're wanting, let's say by the end of 2022, zoom that far out, and that future version of yourself has already succeeded, if not exceeded, what you've set out to do. Whatever your intention was, your future self has completely crushed it, blown it out of the water. Now, that part of you, in contemplation or meditation, I would start asking that version of you how to best set yourself up for success in the coming year. And I do this with all different sorts of things that I have going on, but for this discussion, that is the question, or that's how I would use this tool personally. And it's nothing radical, it's nothing major, it's just present yourself with the question and be available for the guidance that comes through. When I'm saying the guidance that comes through, because people get really caught up on this, they think that it's going to be some clear human language. It might not be. It might just be a nudge. It might just be a feeling. It might just be a, I kind of want to follow this. It's not necessarily going to be as if someone is speaking to you directly, right? Because unless you are just really dominant in clairvoyance or clairaudience, something like that, then it might not come through that way. So we don't want to judge how the guidance comes through or write off intuitive nudges if they're not clear human language. So I just want to make that really clear for all of you, is that this guidance can come through in a whole bunch of different ways, and we don't want to judge it. We don't want to judge it because your future self knows a bunch of stuff that you don't. So if you start cutting in and downplaying and dismissing and brushing it off, okay, well now you're robbing yourself of the wisdom that your future self already has that you don't yet. And the whole point of this is we want to capitalize on what your future self knows you did right now that will help you get to where they are. One more thing that I feel the need to clarify with all of this: if you are feeling fear If your future self in this meditation or contemplation, if you're getting scared or bullied or anything like that, that's not your future self. That's probably your ego. That's some type of distortion that you're conflating. So I just wanted to make that really clear, is that in this type of exercise, you wouldn't feel bad. If you're feeling bad, that's not it. So for myself, in this moment, the reason why this has been very alive for me is because I feel that 2022 is going to be really, really big for me. And there are a lot of things that I would like to see come to fruition in 2022. You know, there's a lot of fruit that I want to pick. I've been planting seeds for a really long time. So, 2022 is going to be a time and space when I'm going to be able to capitalize on a lot of the things that I've been building for a lot of time. So I want to hit the ground running in January. I don't want to, just kind of squander quarter 4 of 2021. That just does not feel good to me at all. My vision for 2022 is really big. My desires are really prominent. They're outrageous. They're over the top. They're magnificent. They're glorious. The desires of my heart, the way that I want to grow is just really intense. And I'm feeling this in a way that I haven't in previous years. And a lot of the reason being is that my emotional bandwidth and my energetic bandwidth is very high right now. And because of that, I want to make the most of this. I have the most energetic, mental, and emotional bandwidth that I have ever had in my entire life, I would say. So of course, knowing the state that I'm in, I want to ensure that I am setting myself up in the best possible way. The best possible way. That is how I want to go into 2022. So I've been tuning into what I really desire in this upcoming year. And I've been feeling into, okay, what is the energetic blueprint that I want to start weaving in? And the main core of this blueprint is around compounding. So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen this a couple months ago. I had an experience where I had the biggest month in my business financially. And then I think it was from July to August or something like that. I had the biggest month ever. And then we moved into the next month and I achieved that same financial success in 1 week. So I collapsed what I did in a month and it was able to come through in a single week. And for me, that feeling and that blueprint is what I want to see come through for this upcoming year. I want more of those experiences like, holy shit, this is so amazing, this is so good. And then the following week comes and it's even better. Where my receiving is on point, my alignment is on point, my focus is on point, my ability to compound what I already have going is just exploding. Explosive levels of growth and success and pleasure and love and excitement and satisfaction and fulfillment and ease and receiving. And I want to see all of these areas amplified. These sensations are just going to be booming in this coming year. And it's going to generate so much momentum that I am consistently tapping into a stream of limitlessness where the manifestations are rolling in so fast and there is so much goodness flowing into my life that I feel like I'm in constant celebration. Because things are just getting better and better and better and better all the time. No matter how much I am tending to my emotional body or moving through emotions, it does not actually override the momentum that I've generated when it comes to satisfaction, pleasure, and celebration. And there is going to be such a strong, energetic current streaming through me. And I'm going to be receiving so much and celebrating so much that in this present moment, I cannot even conceive of what I will be manifesting and creating a year from now. I am going to grow so much in 2022 that my desires that I truly have for myself, I cannot even fathom what it's going to look like or what it's going to be, because so much has come through in the next year. So that is the vibe of 2022. And that's also why I feel, or I have been called to really focus on a consumption fast, a substance fast, so that my field is not cluttered with any type of distortions, and I can really focus on building this energy over the next couple of months. That's really, really important for me, because I need to start this momentum in quarter 4. And this is, at least my focus for Apex is to get everyone locked and loaded as they're heading into 2022. So that's also a part of keeping everything as clean as possible, because if you're in the middle of getting distracted, of being swept away by everything that's happening around you, losing focus really easily, not being consistent with yourself and with your desires and with what you are tuning into, then that means you are going to be miscalibrating yourself in any type of direction. And you want absolute control over the direction that you're moving in. I think that's what we all desire. And of course, the universe will surprise you, right? There's going to be all sorts of twists and turns in life. But the point is that you want to have ultimate refinement over your energy so that you're not getting swept away and calibrating to whatever's sitting in front of your face. So, that is all that I have for you on this topic. But I would really urge you, I would push you a little bit to start tuning into either identifying and observing what areas of your life you would like to see more goodness come through and more intentionality that you can place on them so that they can reach new levels of optimization. That's my thing. That's my jam. That's what I want for you. And then the second question is, what do you feel like is the next best move for you in order for these desires to become a reality? What are you being guided to do? What is it that feels right? Because I'm not going to tell you just what is the mental strategy that's going to work, because the reality is that your mind can play all sorts of games with you. It can jerk you around. So what we're talking about is something deeper. We're talking about energetics. We are talking about your heart and soul. That is what actually you want to be the backbone of all of this. Your mind doesn't know as much as it thinks it does. So tune into your desire, tune into where you'd like to see improvement, tune into what that looks like in practice, or what the next steps are for yourself, what feels right, what feels best for you, and get a move on. Get to it. Chop, chop. Let's go. We're heading into quarter 4 of 2021. And the thing is, none of this needs to be from a space of bullying or, being hard on yourself or being overly stuffy and suffocating. That's not true either. However, what is going to help you is your fire. Whatever it is that's going to light a fire in your soul, where you know that you can tune into these potentials for yourself, and there is an aspect of you that is already where you desire to be in order to set yourself up for the coming year. And of course, depending on what you're needing or what you desire or what your focus is, this is going to look different for everyone. So be honest about what it is that you desire. I promise you do not need to listen to anyone else's points of focus. You don't need to follow others or just get swept away in other people's goals, but really evaluate yourself and make sure that you're bringing self-awareness to the party. I can't emphasize that enough, is that you have to be self-aware so that you can do what's good for yourself. If this podcast has been helpful, I would so love it if you shared with people, if you let them know that all of this content is here, because I know so many people need these types of discussions in their life. And in all honesty, this is the type of discussion that could be an absolute game changer for people as they head into 2022. So if you like this, or you know a friend that would like this, or that would be really activated by this discussion, please share it with them. And do not forget, Apex starts on October 1st. We have God's Looking Glass, which is going to be happening on Tuesday, September 21st at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And all of those links are in the description box, the show notes, all that good stuff. So I appreciate you all. I love you all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye. Bye.